is actually the optimal hero for the map, but I'm not really too concerned about using the optimal hero because we're trying to black border, so it's going to be really challenging. I'm going to give myself the biggest advantage possible in my black border attempt. Either way, it's actually defending round 8, it looks like. No, we died to that red balloon. Okay. So in that case, before I restart my run, I think we're going to test out a submarine. Now this sub spot obviously doesn't cover that many of the lanes, but the nice part about the submarine is it has those seeking projectiles, which can help out a lot. And it looks like that does defend. Let's hit a restart now, and I'll do the exact same placements once again. And as for round 9, I'm thinking we add a dart monkey. As for the location, maybe just right around here. This is really the only thing I can afford in round 9. It did defend though. And round 10 is always a difficult one because there's a ton of blue balloons at the end of the round. Maybe we add a mer monkey over here. Mer monkey is normally good against round 10 because it has 2 layers of damage. That defends. Let's add a second mer monkey on the right hand side now. And I know I need to save up for Geraldo, but I'm thinking we'll get a couple more defensive towers first, just to secure this early game down. Maybe 2 snipers. We'll have them at the top of the map. Actually, let me play around with the line of sight blockers because there's a lot of trees and try to figure out where the best location is for this. All right, this actually appears to be a pretty good spot. Not much area is blocked at all from its range. We'll keep that on strong targeting. First, okay, we actually almost died there. That was kind of scary. And then round 15 has pink balloons, so I'm a little bit worried about this round. What if we add a second sniper on strong? And I guess we'll see how this ends up playing out. Gotta be careful with my targeting. First. It looks like we're defending. Slowly but surely making this happen, guys. I feel like at this point we can probably get Geraldo down. Which as far as his location, I think just over here is fine. I'm not too certain, but we probably need a little bit of help with the right lane. And with Geraldo down, we probably should get some shooty turrets in the field as well. We'll have those down in this location too. And I guess now that we've got through some of the early game rounds, I can kind of get into my strategy. My overall strategy this run is going to be a Avenger spam with Glue Storm. I've showcased this in one of my previous videos. It is one of the best strategies in all of btd6 at the moment. And it also works really well with Geraldo because he has the Sharpening Stone, which buffs the bottom path Desperado. The only problem with the strategy though is the Desperados aren't that great early, and also we're dead round 22. So I'll need an upgrade to carry my early game a bit. And what I'm thinking to do that is probably a Abyssal Warrior with 10 times Equisense networks. I've been using that upgrade a lot in my recent videos and it's pretty dang good. But as for round 22, let's see if upgrading Full Metal Jacket does anything. And maybe I could add a Mer Monkey mid-round. That looks like it defends. Okay. What about round 23? I'm just gonna play out 2 more rounds before I restart, just to see how we're doing. Yeah. In round 24, I could just get camo detection. Okay. I think it's time to restart once again. This is just the way of black border runs, guys. All right, a couple attempts in the early game later, I have not actually been able to make a start work with getting Geraldo down early, so I think this time around, we are just gonna rush an airburst start submarine, and then get Geraldo down afterwards, because Geraldo's not necessarily a hero you need to get down super fast. He'll still level up pretty quickly regardless. Now to get airburst starts, I need to save over $1,000, so I think before that point, I might just get a little bit more defense. Let's get a Mer Monkey exclusively for this lane, and then maybe upgrade these snipers to Full Metal Jacket as well, is my thoughts. Second Full Metal Jacket, yep. All right, how do I look against round 22? First. Oh my gosh. Defend that. Oh, dude, I am hanging on by a thread. These early games are always my kryptonite. It's just so easy to randomly die against something. Wait, I need camo detection. What do I get for camo?
Teammate, I need you.
Come on, throw again. Good. And I think we have gotten the airburst starts. Just in time for round 26. And then I probably want to get advanced intel on this guy as well. Oh, look at this, by the way. The round actually did go back to the middle lane only. I wonder if it's every round number that ends in 6 or 7. I'm not even trying to joke, guys, because those are the rounds that I'm noticing are just exclusively the middle lane. And honestly, let's get Geraldo down on the left-hand side. We have the airburst starts on the right, so I think we need a little bit more defense for the left side lane. And I probably should start saving up for the Dweller now too. In addition to that, we can most likely use maybe like a couple Geraldo spikes. I don't want to use too many to the point at which saving up for stuff's going to be difficult. But 4 spikes is a good idea, especially in a black border setting. Having a little bit of safety is never a bad decision. And I'll be ready to use another spike in case I need to. Have a clutch one come in here. The 2 snipers on strong definitely help out a lot, just peeling down the higher layer balloons for us. and then we can clean up with the other towers. Okay, we've made it to round 33, which is a camo round. I think against these, I'm gonna get Equisense Network on you, and then another Equisense Network over here. Both of these Murmonkeys can see camo. On top of that, my submarine can seek to them. Now, if we still struggle, I can use a clutch spike, but I'd imagine this can defend everything. Ooh, round 35. Can I get the Dweller in time for the rainbows this round? Because there's rainbows coming out in a second. I'm a bit worried. Please? Oh, we got it. Let's go. I'm still worried. Spike. Okay. We defended. Oh my gosh. Hanging on by a thread. I think quickly I should try to buy another Equisense Network if possible. Another Equisense? Yep. We have made it to round 36, which is always one of the most difficult rounds. I'm dead. Man! What could I have done? What if I gave this guy a pickle? Does that make the difference? No, that actually makes me more dead. Sharpening Stone, possibly? Okay, that did defend the first wave, but it was not a confident defend. What if I got this mid-round as well? Yeah, I'm dead second wave. I feel like I needed to go for something instead of this Abyss Dweller then. Alright, I'm going to redo the early game, and instead of getting the Abyss Dweller, I might go for an Alk buff on the sub, and see how that ends up playing out. Alright guys, we are finally back to round 35. I have a slightly more optimized early game this time as well. I skipped on some of the starting towers I had last time. But we're going to get 3-0-1 on the Alchemist just to have better Alk buff uptime. And once again, I got to be careful with the spikes. Just be ready to use them in case I need them. Okay, I almost died there. Wait a second. Spikes in the sling, please. I was not very careful, but we survived somehow. And round 36, as we know, is going to be the biggest challenge round. So in prep, we use a Sharpening Stone, a Pickle, and then I'm going to get another Murmonkey right here, and be ready with the spikes. Let's go. Okay, we're good against the first wave. Let's get another Murmonkey down. Second wave. We're good. Third and final wave. Come on. Submarine defend. I can't tell what's going on. Spike? Okay, we're good. I did not need that spike. We wasted $55, but it's fine. As long as we're alive, you know what I'm saying? At this point, we should probably save for triple guns. Let's get you up now. And then next, we will save for the Abyss Dweller, which I can get up right now. Okay, nice. One other thing I'm going to do is get a shooty turret over here just to give me a little bit more advanced intel coverage, because I didn't have coverage on this part. It's just going to help me out for the Moab. All right, let's defend this Moab. We should be able to. Yeah, we're good. Please say we're not going to struggle for a bit. I imagine we shouldn't. We have camo detection through these Eagle Eyes I bought. We have advanced intel Airburst Dart Submarine, which is really strong. I'm going to be getting a 10 times Equisense Abyssal Warrior here soon. And maybe before I start upgrading the Mermonkey, I get a village over here, so I can discount more Mermonkeys to get in the range. The range is looking alright now, but still not big enough for my liking. And I think the weakest lane at this point is probably the right lane, because we don't have a Mermonkey over there. So I'll get more defense on that lane soon, I'm pretty sure. The right lane is close to the sub, so Submarine's going to do better against those balloons because it will miss less projectiles. But I think what I'll also do for this lane is get a village. We're going to be using 2 villages. Okay, and I accidentally start around 49. But here's my plan. We're going to get discounts on that village. And then I'm going to get a range. And then I'm going to get Desperado down here into an Enforcer. As I said earlier, we're going to be using Avengers today. So getting an Enforcer for the right-hand side is going to help out a little bit. Let's not die. Jungle Drums. I'm ready with spikes. I don't think we need them. Okay. And I can probably get an Alk buff for this guy too soon, which is always a good plan on the Enforcer. We want to make sure we're maintaining 3 shotgun stocks, by the way. I made sure to pre-plan some of my tower placements where there's nothing really in this guy's range, because every single Enforcer stack you get, or Avenger stack you get on, it's 15% extra attack speed. Alright, round 50. We've made it to the Moab, or the second Moab. We're good against that. Probably just save for Abyssal Warrior now. I wanted to get this down before I got Abyssal Warrior, just so I had more coverage of every single lane. Second Moab? Not a problem. Imagine we could just full black border this after having my first run that passes round 40. That is normally the biggest challenge of these black border runs, getting through the early game. I'm happy we did that. Abyssal Warrior has been purchased. It's only 7 stacks still, so I do need to get 3 more Equisense stacks, which I'll be getting soon. I think I'll probably just place them up here. These are also outside of the Alchemist range. That's important because I don't want the AMD throwing on anything else besides the Enforcer, ideally. Next thing to save up for is going to be that Avenger. Actually, let's get primary training first. That doesn't increase its range too much. It still has 3 stacks, which is good. Now let me think about balloon types. Do I have any balloon type weaknesses? I think currently Kimmel leads are a problem. This does pop Kimmel leads if there's an AMD buff on it, and this does as well. But the thing is the AMD is not always active, so I can't necessarily rely on that. Lucky for me, we've got 2 middle lane rounds, 56 and 57. The middle lane rounds are not too bad. I could actually get the bunnies down, which is not a bad idea either. I probably will end up doing that, but we won't be able to get 4 bunnies down in time for the camel leads. I've got an idea for them though. I'm thinking we're gonna get another Avenger down here. Oh, is this not in the range of the village? Wait a second, that's kind of bad. I thought this would be in the range. Alright, this is what I'm gonna do. Primary mentoring. That does put this in the range, and then we're gonna upgrade this to an Enforcer with Bullseye. We want the Bullseye crosspath on all of these. And then I can also get an Alk buff for it. The thing with the Alk buff though, is for me to get the Alk buff discounted, I need to place it inside of the range of the Enforcer. Because if I place the Alk buff up here, for example, it would prioritize something else. So what I'm thinking is we just get the Alk buff all the way down here, where it doesn't lose an Enforcer stack, but I don't get the Alk buff discounted. Alright, round 59. Let's see if I'm good against these Camel Leads. If I'm not, I can use maybe a Clutch Jerry's Fire to help me out, because this will pop Camel Leads on a Camo Detecting Tower, but ideally we don't have to use Jerry's Fire. I'm just going to try to keep eye on everything. We're good. And this does still have 3 Enforcer stacks, by the way, so both of these have 3, which is actually really good. Normally it's hard to get Desperado spots where you have 3 stacks. Round 60 BFB. Not a problem. I think round 63 is the next round I have to worry about with this setup. Oh, these guys don't knock back Moabs, though. So Moabs could maybe be a problem. Fortified Moab in specific, if it ends up on the right side lane, because I don't have the Mermonkey over there. Let's see, one of them is in the middle. This should be easy to defend. Okay, the outskirt. I think I'm fine against this. Yeah, we're good. And we've made it to round 63. Let's be ready with a Blade Trap in case I need it. I do. I'm dead. No way! 1 red balloon. 1 red balloon. Oh, that's so frustrating. Man, what could I do to help me out here? Probably some Riptide Champions. I should utilize some of these early. This also helps me out for the Camel Lead problem I was talking about. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that just demolishes the ceramics. I'm gonna just play out a couple more rounds before we restart, but that just makes me so angry. I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking with just these Riptide Champions added, it gives me a pretty easy way to save up for the Avenger. That's the thing, the 3rd tier Enforcer is not that great defensively, but the Avenger is much, much stronger. You guys know the drill. Though it hurts me to do this.
1 eternity later.
Okay guys, we are back. I have basically a similar setup as last time. This time around though, I did not get the Enforcer on the left hand side and did not get the Primary Mentoring Village either. I probably will be getting those later, but instead I think it's much smarter just to rush the Avenger. And probably get an Alk buff on this guy too. In this way as well, I have a strong tower for the right hand side and a strong tower for the left hand side. So it kind of makes sense. And as for the Camo Lead thing I was talking about last time, let's just get a Riptide Champion on the left as well. We have 1 on both ends. That should deal with these Camo Leads. Right? Yeah, we're good. You guys know I love my Riptide champions. This upgrade is just so good, especially if you're doing a 10 times Abyssal Warrior early, because they have just insane range to begin with. Okay, here's round 63 for the second time around. Let's actually get this a Sharpening Stone as well, just to play it more safe. The first wave, I didn't even see the ceramics come out, so I think I'm okay. Wave number 2. Let's see. Oh yeah. Man, that's so annoying the first time around. I just die against like one random red balloon on this round. Second time, we're doing much better though. And you can see the knockbacks on the mobs are really good too. That's the best part about the Avenger in my opinion. The knockbacks are so consistent. I think this round or next round I can get the second Avenger up. Let's see how we do against this stuff though. Looks like I'm good at the top one, yep. Good for the bottom one. And Avenger has been purchased, okay. Now with 2 Avengers on our side, we should be good for a while. I do want to Alk buff this left one as well. I did have better placements this time around, so I think I can get my Alk buff underneath the village with it's still throwing the buff only on the Desperado, like right here. Yeah, this is not going to buff my Mermonkey, which is important. Let's get the Berserker Brew up. And do I go for bunnies now? That's what I'm thinking. Pet rabbit spam. It's like a little bit less than $8,000 because you need to get 4 of them down before you actually get the killer rabbit. But we'll do it. Let's also get primary training on this village. It's important too. Extra pierce, range, projectile speed, all of that. But yeah, you can see I still have those 3 stacks on both of these guys. That is like the biggest thing you want with the Avenger strategy. All right, that's 2 rabbits. That's 3. I don't know how long it takes to refresh. Hopefully we get number 4 in time for round 75. But we'll see. That BFB should be easy to defend. Yep, we're good. Okay, we did not get it refreshed for round 75. This round could be a little bit threatening. It's always one of the hardest rounds in Chimps. I'd imagine we're solid with the 2 Alk buffed Avengers, but it's always nice to be careful. I'm ready with spikes in case I need them. Having the Mermonkey slow down the mobile class layers as well is really nice too. Yeah, we're good. And we got the 4th rabbit just in time for round 76. Let's see. Oh yeah, these ceramics stand no chance. Do I save up for Glue Storm next? As you guys know, if you saw some of my previous videos, that's the big part of this strategy because these Desperados cannot pop lead. So Glue Storm allows you to do that. And they have pretty low base damage, so Glue Storm also helps with that. Then lastly, Glue Storm slows down ceramics as well, which can be a nice help too. I'm trying to figure out my Glue Storm location first of all. I think just right around here is a fine spot. I want to have it underneath my village, and we'll get the bottom cross path on it as well, which gives you better uptime with the ability. All right, round 78, let's just Glue Strike the ceramic wave. I don't think I need to do that, but better to play it safe than sorry. And the second wave is going to be Camouflage, which, again, all of my towers pretty much seek camo, so it shouldn't be a problem, but we'll play it safe once again. And that's one other nice part about having Geraldo with this strategy. You have those rejuvenation potions. I don't want to use one right now, but I could always reset the Glue Storm if I need to. Also, now that Geraldo's leveled up enough for the strong shooty turrets, I probably should just spam these. That's another nice part, is these guys don't count as towers, so you still can maintain the faster attack speed on your Desperados while placing these inside of the range. But yeah, these are pretty much always a good idea to place with Geraldo. They give you a pretty good damage for the price. They only cost $270 at the end of the day. Alright, and we have our first ZOMG to deal with. How are we going to look here? I think we're going to be fine. Yep, and what I'd like to do, starting round 81, is place these Sharpening Stones. They last for 10 rounds. And they help these Desperados a ton. I've now got Super Ceramics to deal with, so we gotta be a little bit careful. But I'd imagine we're fine against all this stuff for now. Yeah, we're good, we're good. Just trying to be ultra careful with my defense. That's how you gotta do these black border runs. Now we can Glue Storm up. And what do I want to purchase next after Glue Storm? I think I will get a couple more Riptide Champions. I feel like when I don't know what to buy, just getting Riptide Champions is never a bad idea. We can use Glue Storm this round, which actually that might have been a bad idea. I feel like I should use Glue Storm only if it's necessary at this point. Well, it does have a fast cooldown, and I can get it even faster, I think 15% reduction if I buy Primary Mentoring. My only concern with Primary Mentoring is it will increase the range of this Avenger, but I don't think it'll increase it too much to the point where it's going to lose a stack. Let's see. If I buy it... Yeah, it still has 3 stacks. Okay, that's really important. And I'm thinking I could honestly go for a 3rd Avenger. Where would I place it, though? Ideally, it would be underneath a village, where the location I place it. I guess I could get it over here and just have 2 Desperados in this spot, which isn't necessarily a bad idea. I would lose 1 stack, so 15% attack speed in doing that. But obviously adding a second Desperado gives you a lot more benefit than a 15% attack speed loss. Just in this spot. Another Avenger. They are so cheap too. And I also want to make sure this guy's Alk buffed, so I'll get an Alk buff all the way down here. Yeah, both of these have 2 stacks, which 2 stacks is still quite a bit of attack speed. I think that was a decent play. Oh wait, no, this guy's 1 stack now. Oh, the Alk buff is in the range when it's active. I thought this Alk buff, okay. Well, that's a little bit unfortunate then. 1 stack's not near as good. We actually have the nail mines now, so let's place like a couple nail mines on both of these paths. And I'm thinking I probably should get another Avenger for the right-hand side somewhere. Ideally, it'd be underneath this village. Like if I got it here, for example, that's not underneath the village. And having their village buffs is pretty important. So I'm gonna need to think about that a little bit. Maybe placing these shooty turrets in this location was a bad idea because it does block a Desperado spot. I'm thinking what I'll do is just knock it underneath the village. We'll have it right here and build this into a stronger stamina as well so it can buff both of them. We're still good, we're still good. Oh my gosh. Heart skipped a beat there. This is not defending as cleanly as I would have hoped, I'll be honest. We're gonna use Glue Storm for these DTs, of course. Let's go now. That defends. And it's time to refresh the Sharpening Stones. They have worn off. So put Sharpening on all these guys. I'm also going to give this a Camo Potion, which gives enough range to reach this guy with the Pierce bonus. I don't want to give a Camo Potion on the Avengers, by the way. Doing that would just lose me on more attack speed stacks. Round 91 is looking easy. And I've got the 4th Avenger on the field, hopefully round 92. Let's go Glue Storm. There we go, 4th Avenger. The Avengers Assemble strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is still looking very scary. I'm good though. Last 2 ZMGs should be easy. Alright, what do I add next? I think we're probably done with the Avengers for now. So how about we get a Glue Gunner right here into a Relentless Glue? I feel like Relentless Glue is always a good decision. Now 93 does have DTs, of course, so we want to make sure we're using Glue Storm for the DT help. Now.
Listen, you pay monthly fees.
That's an easy way I could lose the entire run if I don't have Glue Storm available for DTs. Oh, let's also go for a couple of these as well. Jerry's Fires aren't a bad idea, especially when I've got Glue Storm in my strategy, which buffs the damage. I'm gonna wait a little bit before I Glue Storm this round, I think. Let's do it now. Round 94. So far, we're shredding everything. Yep, let's get Relentless Glue on our side. And I am a little scared for round 95 DTs. Maybe I should have prepared a Sabo in hindsight. I can use some Geraldo items to help me out, though. I think I'm gonna use some Geraldo glues. And maybe Creepy Idols. We're gonna get a Geraldo restock here in a second, too, which is really nice. So I might as well go crazy with the items. Wait for the DTs to come out, then I'm gonna use these glues. Glue Storm. Okay. Anything else I can use? Or do I need to? We're defending at the moment. We're still defending. Still defending. Yes. I don't even know what I would use to save my life. It looks like we're good. Oh my gosh. I'm about to have a heart attack, dude. These black border runs do it to me. We got a restock, which is great. Sharpening Stone on this guy. Let's just go more Jerry's Fires. I think going into the late game, I want to save 2 Genie Bottles for round 99 and 100. And I think we'll play out round 96. I'll have like 10k more to spend for round 98, which is good. Oh yeah, 96 is a middle lane round. Okay, which means round 96 and round 97 should be actually really easy for my setup. Because these middle lane rounds are not a problem at all. I forgot about that aspect of the map. It does make sense in retrospect why the map creator did this, because I don't think that it would be possible to start on the map if round 6, for example, had every lane active. Alright, here's round 97. I'm gonna save my Glue Storm. I don't really want to use it here. Yeah, we're good. This is easy. The knockbacks are just so broken. And what do we do for 98? That's the question. One thing I can add, which you probably haven't seen me use in a long time, is this guy. A Symphonic Resonance. Because when you have the 10 times Echo Sense networks and placed on the water, it has insane range. And this can just grab Moabs from almost the entire map. And then also give this guy an invisibility potion to increase its range even more. Oh, that looks ridiculous. Now on top of that, I think we're just going to spam the heck out of Geraldo items, and most likely use a couple Blade Traps on this round too. I'm going to wait a second before I Glue Storm. You can see it's grabbing stuff, by the way. Let's Glue Storm now. Let's blade trap this. Blade trap here. Just trying to get as much damage as possible with them. We're defending, we're defending. I don't want to use a genie. I'm still good. Right? Yes? Okay, we defended. A little bit scary, but we're good. And I've got Glue Storm back for around 99, which is huge. Let's get double genie down now. And the thing is, the Moab came from this lane, which means the BAD is going to take the same exact lane. So we want to place our genies in a location where they're going to help out mainly for the BAD damage. Now on top of that, I do have 2k remaining, but I think we're just going to save that money for now. Let's use the Glue Storm now. DDTs. I should be fine against these. Oh yeah, the Symphonic Resonance also picks up the DDTs, which is huge. We're good against that one? Okay. Before we start round 100, let me target this a little bit so I can hopefully help clean up BAD insides. Dude, the range on this is just ridiculous. Is there anything I should add? I was wondering if I could get like an overdrive underneath this village range to get me a little bit more BAD damage. Or I could use another Jerry's Fire and get some other things. I think we'll do that. Because I might want to go for like a rejuvenation potion. And we can use some spikes. Let's just get attack sprayer over here. A little bit of extra damage. I can still use rejuvenation potion. Rejuve. Glues. We're good, we're good. Come on. Finish this black border. We've done it. Let's go. We're gonna get a ton of points from that run, even without using the optimal hero. Just having the black border, we should be set for points. And looking at the pop counts, we got 200k on these guys, 300k on this one, which is actually pretty crazy. Almost 200k on the Mermonkey. Geraldo's got 360k. It was a little bit stressful, but I feel like this was a pretty good strategy for a black border run. And once again, big shout out to Millicat for creating the map in Autumn Amble. If you guys want to try out this map for yourself, here is the code. And of course, I'm going to like this map and favorite it. I hope everyone enjoyed today's video. If you did, please like button, subscribe. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers and I'm well on my way there. I'm like out. Peace. Have a good one, guys.
Trade global assets with superior trading conditions only at XM. We'll boost your account.
Forward! Handle it!
My blades are legendary!
Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Sentai style.
This one already suffers. Hide from death.
Type 7 threat detected.
Your answers.
Type 7 threat detected. Type 7 threat detected.
Your ancestors. This one already suffers.
7 threat detected.
To your ancestors. Rigor mortis is set in pain.